I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Special Counsel Jack Smith has been able to obtain some blockbuster evidence against Donald Trump in connection with his criminal investigation into Trump's theft of thousands of government records, which Donald Trump concealed at Mar-A-Lago. You'll recall that Special Counsel Jack Smith has two major criminal investigations before two separate criminal grand juries in Washington, D.C. federal court taking place right now against Donald Trump. One involving Donald Trump's election interference, his conduct relating to the insurrection and leading up to the insurrection, and then the other criminal investigation relating to Trump's theft of government records, including sensitive compartmented information and top secret records. And so this new report comes from Washington Post that discusses some of this evidence that Special Counsel Jack Smith has been able to gather. And there's really 7 major takeaways that I want to discuss, and really 7 categories of evidence, if you will, that Special Counsel Jack Smith has gathered that we're learning about that makes an obstruction of justice case against Donald Trump seem more and more likely by the day. And I'll explain to you the obstruction of justice statute in a little bit in this video. But let's talk about these 7 categories first. It's being reported that Special Counsel Jack Smith has gathered evidence showing that Donald Trump directed people to move boxes from the storage room in Mar-A-Lago to other locations after the subpoena was issued by one of the criminal grand juries in Washington, D.C. The subpoenas were issued in May of 2022. You'll recall that the search warrant was eventually executed at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th of 2022. And following receipt of the subpoenas, evidence suggests Donald Trump directed people to move those boxes, that Donald Trump specifically did that. The next category of evidence, number 2, is that Donald Trump himself specifically looked through boxes following the receipt of the subpoena that was issued from the criminal grand jury. And he personally went through the boxes, cherry picking the documents that he wanted to keep and trying to give other documents back to Evan Corcoran and Christina Bobb, because you'll recall that on or around June 3rd of 2022, Evan Corcoran, Christina Bobb had a meeting with the top counterintelligence official at the Department of Justice in response to the May 2022 subpoena and said, here, we have this red-welled folder. Here is all of the documents that we've been able to locate. We've conducted a diligent search, and based upon the diligent search, there are no other documents at Mar-A-Lago. Of course, we know that to be false. Further, Christina Bobb and Corcoran, to some extent, signed this attestation, or both were involved in this attestation, essentially under penalty of perjury, telling the Department of Justice that the contents of that red-welled folder contained all the remaining classified records and top secret records, which was completely and utterly false. And again, now we are learning, and the evidence that Special Counsel Jack Smith has seemed to have gathered suggests that leading up to that date, leading up to that June 3rd date, Donald Trump had basically clawed back the documents he wanted, and then there was like 37 documents that were turned over on June 3rd, but all those other documents were kept at Mar-A-Lago, and Trump himself was responsible for that. Another category of evidence comes from one of Donald Trump's assistants. Her name is Molly Michael, and she was she worked for Donald Trump at the White House. She served as an assistant to Donald Trump at Mar-A-Lago. She left her job about a year ago at Mar-A-Lago, and while she was there, though, she kept basically a daily log about what was going down at Mar-A-Lago, who was coming in, who was leaving, Donald Trump's schedule. So that has provided a treasure trove of information to Special Counsel Jack Smith. The fourth category of evidence that Special Counsel Jack Smith seems to have is that Donald Trump directly directed others to lie to the National Archives and to lie to the Department of Justice throughout 2022, just continually telling them, just lie to the DOJ, lie to the National Archives, just tell them that we returned everything when Donald Trump knew that to be false. And his advisors were very concerned about his requests and demands that they lie. To that point, the fifth category of evidence that special counsel Jack Smith now has relating to his obstruction of justice charges, potential obstruction of justice charges against Donald Trump, includes evidence that Donald Trump continuously ignored requests from his advisors who knew that he was committing a crime by concealing these government records. And Donald Trump would ignore all of these requests by his advisors when they would say, you're breaking the law, you need to turn this over. Donald Trump would ignore those requests. So special counsel Jack Smith now has information about that, according to very credible reports. Another category, the sixth category, Donald Trump would ask his advisors and ask his lawyers whether what he was doing was illegal. And the lawyers would tell him, yes, you are committing a crime. Obviously, that would go to the intent element, but Donald Trump ultimately didn't care. And then number seven, which is perhaps what I think is the kind of most fascinating. I mean, all of this has been incredibly fascinating, but the seventh category of evidence that special counsel Jack Smith has regarding Trump's potential obstruction of justice is that we're learning that Jack Smith has been questioning a lot of people about whether Donald Trump was showing these classified records, these sensitive compartmented records, these top secret records to his donors and to other people who Trump considered VIPs, basically as trophies to brag about the documents that he has. You know, he would say, hey, come here. I want to show you what I've got. Come to my office. Let me show you this or let me show you that. And in addition to showing them as trophies, also potentially for other kind of self-serving and very damaging goals in terms of the national security of the United States. So these seven categories of documents and evidence that special counsel Jack Smith is focused on and seems to have gathered demonstrate not only that his criminal investigation into Donald Trump for obstruction of justice regarding the concealment of these government records that Donald Trump stole is heating up, but it looks like Jack Smith has the goods, which I always thought he had, though, to criminally charge Donald Trump for very, very serious crimes. And look, if you thought that the Manhattan District Attorney's criminal indictment of Donald Trump through the grand jury process, when the grand jury criminally indicted and the evidence was presented by the Manhattan District Attorney, if you think that that is a serious felony, I mean, when we talk about the obstruction of justice charges from 18 U.S.C. 1519, that's 18 U.S. Code Section 1519. I mean, obstruction of justice, I'll read for you the statute now. It's whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, covers up, falsifies, or makes a false entry in any record, document, or tangible object with the intent to impede, obstruct, or influence the investigation or proper administration of any matter within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of the United States, or any case filed under Title 11, or in relation to or contemplation of any such matter or case, shall be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. And so it seems very clear that Donald Trump has committed crimes here that special counsel Jack Smith has the goods for, where Donald Trump can be imprisoned for up to 20 years on that specific count. But let's also remember that the other areas, the other potential crimes that Trump is being investigated for, in addition to 18 U.S.C. 1519, is also 18 U.S.C. Section 793, which is a violation of what's called the Espionage Act, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information. And again, that could be in terms of Donald Trump showing these records to third parties, and this could be Donald Trump clearly mishandling these records, which is obvious that he did. And then the third crime, 18 U.S.C. Section 2071, Trump is also being investigated for concealment, removal, or mutilation of these records. And again, the concealment mutilation statute also carries with it a very, very, very serious and significant prison sentence, as well as does the violations of the Espionage Act, which carries with it serious jail time as well. So Donald Trump not in a good position here in terms of him trying to somehow dodge this investigation by special counsel Jack Smith. I just want to remind you of the search warrant that was executed by the Department of Justice back on August 8th. I just want to show you the document so you remember. I know a lot of times passed, but this is what a search warrant looks like. So you pull it up here. This is in the matter of the search of the premises of Mar-A-Lago. And you'll see here, remember Judge Reinhardt, the magistrate judge, and Donald Trump's first inclination again was to attack Judge Reinhardt and kind of do the exact same things he does with Judge Merchan, the judge who presides over the case in Manhattan, the criminal case, as well as Judge Arthur Engoron, who presides over the civil case. That's brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, or Judge David Carter in California, the Central District Judge, who found that Donald Trump engaged in a coup in search of a legal theory. But you remember Magistrate Judge Reinhardt. And then you'll see attached to it is Attachment A. Attachment A talks about the premises that is to be searched, and it defines the premises as Mar-A-Lago. Attachment B, in terms of the property to be seized back on August 8th, was all physical documents and records constituting evidence, contraband, fruits of crime, or other items illegally possessed in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 793, 2071, and 1519. Those are the statutes that I just talked about. And then if you go to the receipt for property showing that the Department of Justice seized the contraband that Donald Trump was concealing. And look, you see Christina Bobb, Donald Trump's lawyer, who signed there, essentially acknowledging that all of those contents that the Department of Justice seized were indeed in Donald Trump's possession. I mean, you see her signature right there. She signed it at 6:19 p.m. On August 8th of 2022. Now, just to situate you where a lot of this information is coming from, we also know that the proceedings before the criminal grand juries in Washington, D.C. have been heating up. You'll remember that Evan Corcoran, for example, Donald Trump's lawyer, who tried to assert attorney-client privilege as a basis for not to testify fully before the grand jury. His objections under attorney-client privilege were overruled under the chief judge in Washington, D.C., who said the crime fraud exception applied and made a finding that Trump was using Corcoran as part, and this is a direct quote from that order. It's still under seal, so I can't pull that order up, but this is what all the reporting suggests, and there's absolutely no reason to doubt these sources in this reporting, that in the order, the federal judge said Donald Trump was engaged in a criminal scheme and using Evan Corcoran, his lawyer, for that purpose. So Corcoran had to testify again before the grand jury, and other individuals have also lost their objections, whether it was under executive privilege or attorney-client privilege. So this is a big update, folks. Special counsel Jack Smith charges. If you add up the charges, I mean, Trump can do, 30, 40, 50 years when you add up all the different counts. And it seems that this is some smoking gun evidence right here. So, of course, we'll keep you posted here on the MeidasTouch Network, but wanted to share that update with you. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1,500,000 subscribers, thanks to your support. Hit subscribe. Also, subscribe to our audio podcast. Just search MeidasTouch Podcast wherever you get your audio podcasts and subscribe there. I know you will enjoy that. And check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas. Hit subscribe.
Lock him up! Indictment season is upon us. Celebrate with the new Indictment season t-shirt and v-neck exclusively at store.MeidasTouch.com.